If we're all good, maybe we'll get started. So thank you everyone for coming. My name is Tess and I'm from Sustainable Kingston. Today the webinar is on a youth perspective, financing sustainable businesses with local impact. Just so everyone knows, we will be recording this and posting it afterward. And feel free to check out our website or YouTube channel for our previous recorded webinars. And I'm going to pass it over to Kingston Social Value Fund to introduce themselves and get into it.
Sorry, I was just finding the unmute button, but pleasure to be here with everybody in the Zoom room and watching later on the recording. My name's KSVF. I've just finished up my third year at Queen's in the Commerce program. And heading into my fourth year. And I'm one of the co-founders of the Kingston Social Value Fund and currently a fund manager. Very passionate about Eastern Ontario and involved in a lot of different community initiatives, both in Kingston as well as with the County of Lennox and Addington and in Prince Edward County. So really excited to be here with you all today. And Gabby, throw it over to my teammate, Gabby.
Hi, I'm Gabby. So I'm an associate with the Kingston Social Value Fund. I actually attend Carleton University, going into my fourth year in finance and economics, but I've lived in Kingston for quite a bit. A large part of my childhood, I grew up in Kingston and always was really impressed by the Kingston ecosystem and the social innovation and the passion that's really around the community. And super excited to be involved in KSVF and super excited to be here today to share what we've been working on and what we do.
Absolutely. So we're going to take you through a brief presentation that tells you a little bit about us and what we're doing and what we've been up to. And then we would just, welcome questions and comments and just an open discussion with those around the table today. But launching into it, what is the Kingston Social Value Fund? We are Kingston's first youth-led impact investment organization. And in fact, we are Kingston's only impact investment organization so far. And a little bit about our reason for being. In our observation, we found that at a national level, conversations were happening around how can we finance social purpose organizations or businesses and enterprises that are looking to do good for the community. We saw that there at the federal level, there was a huge gap in the availability of capital for the demand that was being sought after. So for example, in early 2020, when the federal government released the Investment Readiness Program, they saw $85 million in funding applications for a pool of just $8 million. So they saw that the demand was far outpacing the supply for impact first capital. And so bringing it back down to Kingston, we saw that additional private capital had to be unlocked in order to grow and adequately support social purpose organizations in our local ecosystem. And we saw that there are many viable opportunities in Kingston. There are lots of nonprofits and cooperatives and folks that could use a bit of capital to grow, but oftentimes they lack access to the necessary funding. And when they don't get that funding, they're forced to either take on personal debt or close shop or wind down operations. And that's really unfortunate because then we lose all the beautiful community value that these organizations are bringing to the table to help make Kingston a more prosperous place. And so, in tandem, that was kind of why we wanted to get started. But when we think about what COVID has made a lot of people realize, it's that the cracks that have existed in society for a long time just became ever more present, right? Throughout the pandemic, we saw how many people are living paycheck to paycheck, and how losing a job might put them might make them have to rely on income supports or a food program. And great evidence of that in Kingston is the demand that Lionheart saw for their meal program and other food providers like St. Vincent de Paul and Partners in Mission. And so Canadians are expecting this broad societal transformation coming out of the pandemic to build economies that are more people-centered, that are more community-focused, and are more environmentally sustainable. And so that's kind of our reason for being. What we do is we connect local social purpose organizations and community investors And how we do that is kind of in 3 steps. First, we work to identify social purpose organizations in Kingston that have high impact and ability to address critical community needs. Our team of capable students then does research, due diligence, and structures deals for the most in need and viable social purpose organizations. We have an investment committee that works with us to help validate the opportunities. And once the SPO has moved through our entire process, we connect those investment opportunities to local funders or invest directly with funds that we raise. And when we're doing these investments, we do it through the lens of the social value methodology. You can think about this like our investment thesis. And it has 3 core tenets. The first tenet is stewardship. And when I say stewardship, I mean that not in the traditional environmental sense, but in the sense that at KSVF, we prioritize a venture's ability to contribute to social and environmental solutions, not their profitability. That doesn't mean that it doesn't need to be financially feasible. We do need financially feasible projects and SPOs, but we believe that by putting impact, whether social or environmental, at the forefront rather than on the back burner, we're investing in fundamentally sound and resilient businesses. And that leads into our impact adjusted returns approach. We look to take a very flexible and tailored approach, both in the way we invest and the returns we seek to incentivize impact. And we'll talk a little bit later on about how that can unfold. But at this stage, I like to give the example of the unicorn and the zebra. If we've got an SPO that we may expect a 10 times return on, but it doesn't really create any impact. And then we've got the zebra who may generate 2 or 3 times return, but it does create meaningful impact for our community. We will take and invest in the zebra all day and night long over that unicorn. The last tenet is inclusivity. And what I mean by inclusivity is that we invest in a range of corporate structures. So that can be for-profit social enterprises, small and medium-sized businesses, early stage social ventures, nonprofits, cooperatives, because we realize that the range of actors that are looking to make Kingston a more resilient and prosperous community are really wide. And there's so many people that want to come together to do this work in our community, and we want to finance that range. We also engage with a wide range of potential investors, whether that be foundations, individuals, corporations, and a variety of different funders. This is a bit about our investment process and what it looks like at a high level. I won't spend too much time here, but it's important to note that we're not a grant-making organization, and we bring a real level of rigor to our investment process. But centered at the core of our process is making sure that the impact is core to the business operations, is tangible, is meaningful, and is local. And so, at the initial phase of our analysis, we look to validate that impact using tools we've created. Once we've validated, and only if we've validated that the impact is real and tangible and local, then we move on to looking at things like business model, competitors, financials, all of that stuff. We work through that process to validate the opportunity through due diligence and investor engagement, and ideally, we fund that opportunity. And once we invest in that opportunity, it's important to understand that KSVF is not a hands-off investor where we just put money in and we sit and wait for the return to come back. We intend to be very active with wraparound supports for our organizations. And we do that in a few different ways in post-investment support. Through our partnerships, we are able to provide organizations with pro bono consulting services, as well as support from our team internally. Because we know that SPOs require that support as they seek to become investment ready, as they grow their operations, and we want to provide that support. We don't do this alone. We leverage support from national organizations, 2 main ones that I'll call out. The first is the National Social Value Fund. And what the National Social Value Fund is it's our, you can think of it like our parent nonprofit, and they provide year-over-year structural and learning support to our social value fund, as well as the other social value funds across the country. So it's important to note that we're not the only one that's part of this movement. We've got social value funds in Vancouver, in Montreal, in Calgary, London, Ontario, and soon to be another one in Ontario, but I'm not sure I can say where it is just yet. And so because we're part of this network of social value funds, The National Social Value Fund is able to provide that connectivity to all of the other social value funds and allow us to leverage insights and experiences from across the country to make sure we're doing what works best here in Kingston and not duplicating mistakes. We want to duplicate successes. And the other real value to NSVF is that they provide all of our students with a tailored training program that is focused on building the next generation of impact investors. So our student teams receive tailored social finance curriculum, impact investor training, access to personal and professional development opportunities, different speakers, events, and panels to really make sure that we're well trained to make good and impactful decisions. The second organization I'll call out is SIA, the Social Innovation Academy. They're also a nonprofit, and they support social purpose organizations by training student fellows across Canada, who then provide all of our investee companies with pro bono consulting support, whether that be financial modeling, marketing, business planning, and other strategic work at no cost to us or to the SPO. They're also connected to a network of expert service providers that are able to provide support on things like tax and accounting and marketing and strategy at low to no cost to the venture. So there's two different support angles that SIA allows us to show investee companies. So I know it can be hard to wrap your head around necessarily what we're doing. And so we like to illustrate a case study of an investment that was done out in Vancouver to really show you what it looks like. So the Vancouver Social Value Fund invested in a company called Clean Start. And Clean Start is a junk removal and hoarding services company that mainly provides services to BC housing projects, but to a range of corporate clients. The real impact that Clean Start has is that they have a focus on hiring individuals with barriers to employment, whether that be women, racialized individuals, newcomers, people with intellectual disabilities. It really ranges, but they have a focus on hiring folks with barriers to employment. This is not a company that would normally attract, large scale capital to grow their operations, but they were looking for a loan so that they could expand and grow into a new market. And so the Vancouver Social Value Fund took a look at them. They put them through the process of investment analysis and due diligence and ended up investing in Clean Start. They invested $85,000. But what's really interesting is how they did the investment. So VSVF financed Clean Start with an impact adjusted loan. And so what that basically means is that they said, the interest rate on this loan is 5%. But if you're able to hire X percentage of people with barriers to employment and X percentage of women, we will lower the interest rate on the loan to incentivize you to create that additional impact. And that just kind of highlights the importance of impact creation to our model and making sure that we're incentivizing ventures to create impact and aligning those incentives. And now post-investment, the investment has been doing extremely well. It's been tracking well. And SIA has supported Clean Start on 3 different projects, to help strengthen their operations. And so this is just a quick slide about how people who want to get financially involved with KSVF get involved. Folks can either make a charitable donation or they can invest with us deal by deal. The donations essentially work whereby a funder would donate to our team through our charitable foundation, our publicly registered foundation. We can then invest 100% of that capital into local SPOs, and the returns are evergreen. So as those investments return to us, we redeploy it, and it works on a beautiful recycling basis. The other way is kind of on a case-by-case basis. So with case-by-case investments, our team goes out, we find opportunities, we do the research, due diligence, all of that stuff. We then bring it to a deal-by-deal investor. They then make the investment directly into the SPO. We again support the SPO with our post-investment support, with our a quarterly and annual reporting. And then whenever that investment exits, the investor will donate a percentage of the return to KSVF so we can continue to grow our base of funds. And I'll pass it off to my colleague now, Gabby.
Thank you, Keshav. So Keshav has touched on this a little bit about the whole student experience. And although we are a student-led initiative and organized, we are supported by an investment committee and advisory board made up of business professionals, Kingston local based, as well as industry specific. So we have everyone from Peter Kingston from the Boys and Girls Club to Maria Nuzali from BMO Impact Investment Fund. And this really strengthens our deals and makes sure that we're deploying capital in a meaningful way that is also logical and backed by proper financials and due diligence. And so your money is safe with us and safe with our advisory boards. Going back to that student experience, our team is made up of primarily Queen's students. I'm kind of the exception just because I was raised here. But for the most part, passionate Queen's students. The majority of us are in business fields, but we all come from very diverse backgrounds, bringing together really unique collaborative opportunities and just unique perspectives in terms of these investment deal sourcing. And you can see we're fairly large now, but we have been growing and we're looking to grow further as well. And going back to that student experience again, this KSVF really does give that real world experience that can be applied to future job opportunities and to help own studying, and really brings these socially and environmentally mindsets into our work moving forward, and creates, the future leaders in the social and environmental landscapes. In terms of our progress since 2020, so we have seen the Social Value Fund model being validated out in Vancouver, where more than $400,000 was invested by local investors. They've already engaged in 7 local investments, which I believe might be a little bit outdated, and 6 of them are on track with 1 IPO'd. And other funds as well have already secured funding and have been going through the deal process. In our case specifically, we have engaged with more than 100 professionals across all of Kingston and the surrounding area, and across all areas of expertise. So everyone from the Kingston Economic Development Corporation to Queen's University, in order to really understand the Kingston ecosystem and some of the local challenges that the Kingston environment is facing. In terms of our actual deal flow, so we have obtained $70,000 in funding from 3 different financial sources, one of which is the United Way. And as well, we have been tracking 2 social purpose organizations in great detail, moving through the due diligence process, going through the process to meet with the investment committee and the advisory board. But we've also engaged with over 30 social enterprisers. And when I say engaged, I don't mean, we shot off an email. In these situations, we've either sat down with the organizations or, because of COVID, made a call and sat down and really understood the business and the impact that they have and that they're making on the Kingston community. In terms of what are our next steps, they're kind of twofold. So the first is on the raising capital side. We are looking at raising $500,000 in local investments. And as said, we're at $70,000, so we're well on our way. And this is over the next 12 months. And then on the other side, it's more on the actual deal generation. So we're looking at making 3 to 4 investments per year so that we can hold ideally 8 to 12 investments in our portfolio at a given time. And that's kind of where you all come in. Opportunities are across either the investment landscape or the deal flow landscape. So when we're looking at investing, that would be being a donor, working with us on sort of the financial side, or alternatively, you can help on the deal flow side. So connecting us with individuals who you think could benefit from capital deployment or some of the services that we offer, including our SIA partnership, so that we can continue to build up that ecosystem and continue to deploy capital where it's meaningful to these social enterprises. And I guess with that, I won't leave it here. I know we're going to open the floor to questions, but I just want to thank everyone for sitting and listening to our presentation and just getting a better idea of the Kingston Social Value Fund. We're here to ideally serve the community, and we want to work with anyone else in the social innovation ecosystem and learn as much as we can about the Kingston community and so many of the great opportunities that are going on here.
Wonderful. So we'll pause here for questions or comments or thoughts.
I just wanted to say I really like that quote.
Bhavna has been one of our greatest supporters to date. She's been a passionate advocate for our work, and we're so grateful to have the United Way and her belief in our work with us.
Can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
So this is great. I'm really glad that you folks were able to present today, and I hope more people in our community become aware of this. I was just curious, just coming from, I have a philanthropy background and fundraising background, and I was wondering if, what makes a project, when someone's approaching you with a project or an opportunity, at what point what kind of project are you interested in versus the project that you may say, you know what, that sounds like something that would be more appropriate for a grant from the United Way or Community Foundation of Kingston, or like more of a philanthropic direction?
No, that's a great question, Jeff. Thanks for that. So first of all, there needs to be some sort of revenue that can be generated from the project. And so if we can see evidence that the project will gain revenue, will be able to generate revenue in excess of its expenses, likely, then that's kind of the baseline of what we're looking at. So, a great example, there's so many great examples of nonprofits that operate social enterprises in our community. So great one is Quick Shred, right? Quick Shred, run out of Community Living Kingston and District. They provide employment opportunities to people with intellectual disabilities. They're a great example of a revenue generating entity that could be funded by KSVF. Restore, run by Habitat for Humanity, is another great example. We just need to see an ability to pay back any kind of loan and see an additionality on the capital we'll bring in, right? So we want to make sure that if we're investing like via a loan, let's say in a social purpose organization, that the loan is going to be used not to just kind of keep a program alive, but to actually grow or have that additionality.
Great, thank you. And I guess quick follow-up. Are you entertaining mature projects and mature programs, or is the focus more on startups?
No, that's actually a really brilliant question, and it's something that I think people tend to miss. We absolutely want mature projects, because mature projects often have already great impact in the community, but there's potential for them to grow. And so, Clean Start was already a mature operation at its time, which is why it's not attracting any kind of VC or early stage type investors. But those mature projects are absolutely up our funding alley. They're doing great work, and we would love to invest in those kind of things.
I have a quick question. Sorry if this was answered, but so the Kingston Social Value Fund is student-led, and you're part of like a national group. Are all of these groups student-led, and you're part of like a big nationwide student-led, or is that just like Kingston specific?
Yeah, Gabby, you want to take that one?
Sure. Yeah. So the National Social Value Fund is not, as an organization, is not student-led, but each of the different localized funds are all student-led. So, ours happens to be in Kingston, so it attracts a lot of Queen's students, but some of our other ones are focused in other cities that tend to be university-centric, and they're all completely student-led, and we go through NSVF and SIA as additional partners in order to support our operations, but at the end of the day, it's all student-focused.
Yeah, so the National Social Value Fund nonprofit is run by a permanent executive director, but all of the local teams are completely student-led and student-run in each of the cities. And the other interesting thing too is that students are really kind of central to the decision-making process. So one of the things that was very intentional is our investment committee. Although they bring such deep expertise, their decisions are actually not binding. The students are, and so the power is really held with the students that are part of the fund.
Thank you. I love that.
It definitely creates a more rich learning experience because you're responsible for all of the decisions that you're making. So you do feel a lot more invested in the process. And I know we all give it our 100%, which is, it's really great.
Just with regards to the student focus, how is the organization locally anyway able to sort of have a sustainable model going forward if some of the interested parties are only living in Kingston for a short period of time?
Great question. So that's a question we get a lot, and this is what happens. Essentially, all of our team members are brought onto the fund in a two-year term, and so in year one they're an associate. They receive a lot of the training and kind of get their feet wet in the fund. Then following year one, they become a fund manager, work in that capacity, and then graduate out of the fund as an advisor. And so every year we have a hiring round so that we're constantly bringing in new associates as fund managers cycle out and associates become fund managers. So that perpetual cycle allows us, provides longevity. But the other side of the coin too is that we've got, local advisors and local investment committee members that stay on with us, past, for example, my personal graduation date.
Yeah, and I'll also add to that, we've been really working on building up a portfolio of like internal processes in order to have everything consistent across years. So even if there's turnover in personnel, they're able to reference the same materials and they're up to speed with all the ventures and they have everything kind of that they need in order to succeed.
That's great. Can I ask one more? So what is the geographic range then for because I mean we've certainly Sustainable Kingston's been working with Lanark County and we have partners in Cornwall. Is there what's the catchment area geographically?
So we're mostly focused in Kingston, but we'll entertain anything in the KFLNA region as well as Wolf Island. And so anything in that area is up our alley. We won't go into Prince Edward County, but kind of up to Kingston, Lennox and Addington, Frontenac. That's all good for us.
Great, thanks.
Okay. I mean, if we have no more questions, we can end off here, I guess, Tess.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'd like to thank you both so much for this presentation. Incredibly informative, and I think I speak for all of us when we're really excited to see what's to come. Just so everyone knows, the webinar will be up by the end of the week if anyone wants to look back at any information. But yeah, if there's no more questions, I hope everyone has a great rest of their day and rest of their week.
And I'll just add quickly, thank you very much, Tess, to you and your team for having us here. It was an absolute pleasure. And we look forward to engaging with Sustainable Kingston for many, many, many more years and engaging with all of the businesses within Sustainable Kingston's network. So thank you.
Amazing. It's mutual. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah, thanks. That was awesome.